I've been shooting with the Nikon 135 f1.8 Plena lens for about the past 5 months. And this is what I've been looking for in a portrait lens. Let me break it down for you in my review of the 135 Plena lens from Nikon. Hi, I'm Terry Vanderheiden, professional photographer. Today I'm going to give you a complete breakdown of the Nikon 135 f1.8 Plena lens and how I use it in my photography. First and foremost, this lens is for portraits. However, I have used it for some unique looks for my nature photography. So stay tuned to the end of the video to check that out. Let's get some specs out of the way first. The focal length is 135 millimeters. So over time, I've found this to be the optimum length for portraits on a full frame camera. Very little distortion like you can get with shorter focal length, and not too much compression that you get with something like 200 or above. Another thing to consider is how far away you are from your subject. So now if you're using a 50 millimeter lens as a portrait lens, you're going to find you might be a little too close to your subject to be comfortable. You might be invading their space just a little bit and then making them feel self-conscious, and that can come across in the image. If you're shooting at, say, 200 millimeters or longer, then you're maybe too far away to communicate with your subject. And that distance gap is not good for developing rapport, and your subject thereby not making them feel comfortable that way either. The 135 millimeter length is just about right in my opinion. It keeps you far enough away so you're not on top of your subject, but close enough so you don't have to yell at them to make them give them an idea of how you want to move or position or pose them. The 135 f1.8 Plena lens weighs in at 36 ounces, so it's a little on the hefty side. It has 11 diaphragm blades to give you that soft bokeh in your backgrounds. It also has 4 ED glass elements for keeping the contrast nice and clean. The filter size is 82 millimeters. I like that because it's the same as many of my other lenses in the Nikon line. For me, using the same set of filters just makes life easy. I have the case magnetic filters, and they're really easy to click on and off. And you're going to want filters for this lens. You are especially going to want a collection of ND filters if you plan to shoot any video with this lens. Since the widest f-stop is f1.8, as you can imagine, that lets in a lot of light and gives you a beautiful, shallow depth of field. If you're shooting video outdoors during the day, you'll need to have a good set of neutral density filters to allow you to shoot video that features that shallow depth of field. As you may or may not know, when you're shooting video, your shutter speed needs to be about a 60th of a second when you're shooting 30 frames per second in order to give you enough image blur to make the movement on the screen look fluid. Just enough motion blur to make it look like smooth motion. Now, there are some exceptions to that rule, but for the most part, your camera will be locked into a low shutter speed. Outside during the day, in order to get that low shutter speed for the video, you'd have to be shooting at like f11 or f16, essentially eliminating the ability to use the lens at 1.8, which of course is why you paid for this lens in the first place. If you pop for a good neutral density filter over the lens, bingo, you can shoot at 1.8 on a bright sunny day. That's why you need to have a good set of ND filters. And I like the magnetic ones because they're easy to take on and off. Another feature of this lens that's mostly noticeable when shooting video is little breathing. Breathing is when you're changing focus during a clip, and you can notice how the size of the image changes. Here's an example from the 70 to 200 zoom lens set at 135 millimeters. You can see how the size of the subject changes when the focus is changed. That's because there's noticeable breathing in that lens. Here's the 135 Plena. I set this at 2.8 to keep everything similar as possible. And when you see the clip, you can see that the sizing doesn't change much, which makes this lens a fabulous choice for filmmakers. Now, as far as sharpness goes, this lens is as sharp or sharper than any of the other lenses in the Nikon line that I've ever tested. Let me show you some examples of that. To really improve your sharpness, it's always best to start with a super sharp lens like the 1.35 Plena. However, you can improve your sharpness on your images by just employing a few important shooting techniques. I've written an ebook on just that, called Razor Sharp Nature Photography. Inside, you're going to find tons of information on creating sharper images, and also I go over how to make those images even sharper in post-production. This ebook is instantly downloadable, so you can put it on your iPad and take it with you when you're out shooting, and you can refer to it in the field. Razor Sharp is available only through my website, imagelight.com. Just go to the digital products page and you can get a copy today. I'll leave a link in the description below. The 1.35 Plena is primarily a portrait lens, so come along with me on a session to see how this lens works in the field. For starters, I want you to lean against this back, so your back's against this tree here. Now, straight back all the time. Now, what I want you to do is to just rotate your body this way, okay? And let's see, just put your hands together like that, okay? Okay, excellent, that looks great. Do a couple of different shots here. Good, just like that. Chin up just a little bit. Turn your face this direction. When I have you move, turn real slow. I want your eyes always at me though. Good, just like that, excellent. Chin up a little bit. Slowly turn your look so you're looking off into that direction there. Then eyes at me. Turn your face a little more that way. Eyes at me. Nice, just like that. Your knee there, just like that. Now hug your knees like you did earlier. Smiling back, really super happy smile. Come on, there you go. Laughing, I want to hear the laughing. Yeah, that's good, that's good, that's good. Tilt your head over towards those guys. Top of your head over. So like this. There you go. And look back towards me. Turn your face up towards the light. There you go. Excellent, just like that. This lens is solid, but it's not too heavy to use as a handheld unit. Most of the time, you're going to be shooting at f1.8 wide open, and this will give you the shallowest depth of field to bring the subject in and separate it from the background. The upside here is that you can be shooting at fairly high shutter speeds to make up for any skitterish hand-holding techniques that you may have. I'm shooting the 1.35 Plena lens attached to my Z9. I have it set for 3D autofocus and human eye detection. Now you can do some fantastic headshots with this lens, but be careful. As you get closer to your subject, the depth of field can get pretty shallow. You might find that it's too shallow. So let me give you a demonstration of when you're shooting headshots. In this image here, this shot at f1.8. That's the most shallow depth of field you can get, and you can get the eye in focus, but the tip of the nose is going to be out of focus, as well as behind the eye. So it's a real shallow depth of field. You want the eye in focus. This image shows kind of representation of the area that will be in focus at 1.8. When we move to f2.2, you start to get a little deeper area of things in focus. So you still get the eye in focus, of course, but then you'll start pulling out and you'll get a little bit more of the nose. You may not get the tip of the nose, but you're going to get most of the nose. And then it starts to open up behind the eye as well. So this is starting to get a little more depth of field. And again, this is predicated on how close you are to the subject. At 2.8, now you're going to get quite a bit more depth of field. The eye will be in focus. All of the nose should be in focus, as well as going back towards the ear, but the ear should still be out of focus. As we go up to 3.5, again, the depth of field opens up, the eye's in focus because that's where you're focusing on, the whole nose is in focus, and now you're starting to get towards the ear will start becoming in focus on these shots. 4.5, it increases just a little bit more. You're gonna reveal more texture behind in the hair, and you're of course going to start revealing more focus in front as well. At f8, you're going to get a lot more in focus. The eye's going to be in focus, the nose will be in focus, the tree behind her will be starting to be in focus, and it starts to fall off right around her hairline. At f14, now you're starting to jeopardize your backgrounds. Your backgrounds will start coming in focus and could be more distracting. Just about everything's going to be in focus at f14. As good as this lens is for headshots, it really excels when you're doing 3/4 or full-length portraits. Here, the depth of field is so shallow, you can separate the subject from just about any busy background. Another cool thing about this lens is the bokeh it shows off. Check out the shape of the lights in the background of this image. Nice, round, non-distracting light that can add to any portrait session. While this is mostly a portrait lens, I've used it for some landscape and nature shots. Again, the value is that you're shooting so fast. At f1.8, you can handhold and move in and out on your subjects under low light conditions. It works great for isolating a subject when you want it, and it works fabulous on a tripod. In this image, I had the rig on a tripod and I was shooting at about a 20th of a second at f1.8, of course, focused on the tufts of grass in the river. I liked the way the evening light glinted off the top of the grass at wide open at 1.8. It began to soften the background and bring the viewer back to the river grasses, which was my subject and what I wanted. This lens is sharp. It's perfect for video, it's made for portraits, and it excels well with nature and landscape images. Now it comes in at $2,500, which is a lot, but I still think it's well worth it for all its versatility. Now, I hope you liked this breakdown. If you did, click the like button and subscribe, and remember to ring the little bell and be notified of my next video on YouTube. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments section below and I'll get back to you because I read and respond to all of them. See you next time.